And joining us now is our correspondent Ariel Levin-Waldman. So Ariel, we have a display here, quite a fine display of different basic goods in Israel. And we know that prices have risen for most of these products. Can you give us a sense of what the prices are today for some of these products and what that means for the average Israeli?
Well, the average Israeli is saying that they can't even afford to make ends meet. You have people in the stores buying pasta and ramen and not much else, saying that this is how they live here, because it's no secret that Israel has some of the highest consumer goods prices on the planet, one of the most consumer unfriendly nations to live on Earth, and that's only amplified over the past couple of years. The cost of dairy products is going to be going up about 15%, and that's just the latest. When we're talking about grain-based products like bread, like flour, everything else, that's spiked. It's hard to get a good idea because that's always fluctuating, but I know that a loaf of bread that cost last week about 15 shekels cost about 9 shekels at the same time about 2 years back. So that's just an idea of what your basic food costs are. And food's not the only thing on the agenda. When we're talking about cost of living, we're talking about the two biggest ones, food and shelter. You know, the two most basic goods that you cannot do without. And the big challenge that everyone's asking is, well, are the parties doing anything to help? And this is what we have to ask. Revealed preferences versus stated preferences. When polled, the Israeli Democracy Institute says that most Israelis say that economic issues like the cost of living will be their primary determining factor in the upcoming elections. But if we look at the parties that are surging ahead in the polls, not a single one's addressed the economy in any way, shape, or form in any meaningful way.
Right. Well, we do see these new parties coming out, people like what's her name? Mukhtar?
I can't remember her first name.
Okay,
There,
Hadar Mukhtar, sorry, I had a moment there. This is a 21-year-old TikTok star who has been basically screaming about how angry she is for the youth. Her party's called Fiery Youth, and they're upset about the cost of living here, how expensive it is to buy a home. So there are tiny parties like that who are coming out of the woodwork saying that they really do want to stop this spiraling living crisis here in Israel, but it doesn't seem like they're the parties that are necessarily getting much of the public support. So my question is, have there been any plans introduced by any of these campaigners, especially within the leading parties like Yesh Atid or Likud, as to how they're going to address the cost of living here?
So there are a few things that are in the works, but some of them are more vague and some of them have already been done and some of them are delayed for the indefinite future. The big one we can talk about is an attempt to roll back the various protections on food that create monopolies in Israel. That was pushed through by Lieberman as well as Yesh Atid and is supposed to go into effect around January. That's the most tangible thing that we've seen about the cost of living in years here. Certainly, Lieberman and his party keeps on pushing for more privatization and more liberalization of the markets. But one of the big things is that most parties in the past have preserved monopolies on just about every single good and service in Israel. No competition, no foreign imports is one of the big ones. That keeps prices sky high. And if you look at the parties that are surging ahead, if they're making economic statements at all about what they're going to do, not what's been done in the previous legislative session, there are no details whatsoever. And despite that, Israelis are still psyched to vote for the parties that aren't even touching the economy. In some cases, they don't even have a platform at all.
Well, it's interesting, of course. Bibi, one of the videos we've been seeing going viral, I mean, it really is a very effective campaign video if you believe every word of it and you think that there are facts to back up this happening. He says that he's going to make kindergartens or nurseries free for babies aged 0 to 3, which sounds great. I mean, you have a new baby, so you would love that, I'm sure. But is this realistically going to happen?
Show me the budget. Show me the plan. Show me the paperwork. It's campaign season. A politician will say literally everything. But the fact is, for decades now, these policies have been in place that have kept the costs of living in Israel the highest in the entire developed world, with really no end in sight. It's a contested election. People are going to say anything can get elected. Show me the meat.
All right. So I guess the final question that I have is, what will it take to get Israelis to take to the streets, to actually impact action, right? To get their leaders to come up with a solidified plan as to how to address this issue?
That's the big question. We did see Israelis take the streets once before. That was the housing protest, and I believe it was between about 2010, 2011, where you had the tent protests in the streets about the cost of living. But those sort of faded away. We saw over the past couple of years that the already astronomically high housing costs in Israel have, in some cases, gone up 30, 40, 50, 70%, depending on the city you're in. I don't see people in the streets today. It seems that Israelis are more than willing to simply take the cost of living as long as the political system is espousing whatever words fit an ideological view rather than one for their economic needs.
Right. Yeah, people are going to keep on paying 15% more for their dairy products, or more than that.